Alright, so Joe and Colo with OKRaw.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I'm going to share with you guys actually 10 fruits, and there's actually many more, but these are more common ones, that you can actually buy and then store for a whole month and then still eat it. Now, here's my comments on this topic is, it is optimal to buy fruit that is so fresh that you need to buy it and, you know, it's going to be mush by the time you get it home, because if you put it in those plastic bags, they're touching each other. Those peaches are so soft, they're just going to mush and it's going to be a mess. That is the kind of fruit you guys really want to be eating, in my personal opinion. That being said, we live in a modern age where you can't get things tree dropped, tree ripe, unless you literally grow it yourself or maybe visit farms and do a U-pick. So my goal is to get as much of that fresh stuff that I could possibly eat, and then so that I never run out of food, and especially during times of the pandemic or whatever you want to call it. You know, you might not go out to shop as much. You can buy some of these items and they can store easily a month if you do it right, you know. And that's another big tip is you got to follow all my directions, right? I have a very special set of skills. Now, if my daughter, and I don't have a daughter, was kidnapped and taken by the, you know, foreigners, I couldn't go to their country and beat butt and get her back. But I do have the skills to store produce longer than anybody else that I've personally ever met myself, because literally my diet has consisted of fruits and vegetables predominantly now since 1995. I buy tons of produce. I go to the produce terminal, I'll buy cases and cases, 20 cases at a time. I'll bring back that food, literally have it for like the next month sometimes, depending on the produce item, and eat that until I make another run to the produce terminal. The other thing I'll do is I will buy in bulk. So if a local store has a good deal or a sale on something, right, then I'll buy a whole bunch because I can get it for literally half price or a third of the price today than I can next week when they're off sale. You know, so I often will buy organic blueberries, 6-ounce cartons for like $1, and you know, and they're on sale for $1, and it's like, that's crazy because normally they're like $5, and I'll buy like 50 of them. And then I know how to store those, and those aren't in this video because they won't store necessarily a month, but I can get them to store, depending on the condition I buy them in, 2 to 3 weeks easily. I don't know if I'd put a month on that one. That's kind of iffy because it depends. So you could save money by buying in bulk, not have to go out shopping as much. In addition, you know, like when local farms are in season, like these fruits are actually were bought at a local farm that I bought them from. And all the fruits are in season at once. So I bought a whole bunch of these fruits. And then I basically been storing them so that I will have them. And actually, I did an Instagram post. If you're not following me on Instagram, check me out at Growing Your Greens. Link down below the video. I did a post where I actually ate some of my pomegranates. Actually, I purchased last year that were a year old. Don't do that with any of these produce items. They're not going to make it. But pomegranates will if you store them properly and you follow all my directions, right? And the other thing is, like sometimes when I grow my own food, so you know, sometimes in my garden, like at the end of the season before the freeze comes, I have tons of peppers on my plants that are ripening up, and I harvest them all, and I need to store those peppers as long as I can into the winter so that I don't have to buy as many peppers at the store. And actually, these are some of the peppers that I harvested literally in December, and we are here in middle of January, and these guys are still good. So I'm going to show you guys actually the different fruits, and more importantly, how to store them and how to select them so that you can store them properly with all my tips. And make sure you guys stay to the end, because if you just watch the beginning of this video, you're not going to get to the end, and the tips at the end are actually the most important on how to store them properly, which there's at least a handful of things you must do or you're not going to get the longevity out of your produce. So the first tip I'm going to give you guys is that when you go to purchase the produce, make sure it's the highest quality possible. What does that mean, right? Well, that's a good question. What does it mean? So in terms of, you know, I buy things to store. I mean, straight up, I don't buy things to like, oh, I'm going to eat this today because it's super ripe and I buy a ton of them. No, that doesn't necessarily happen. But if I see like, oh, that's a good price, that'd be perfect for storing. And so actually these Fuji apples, you know, these are nice and firm. Very important, right? If you want to store stuff for a long time, don't get the smushy apples that you could indent and they're soft as an avocado because those are already really old. You want to try to get them as fresh as possible. So I go to the produce terminal where literally they just got off the truck and they just came in, and then I could buy them, bring them home. They haven't been sitting on a shelf for a long time. In addition, very important that post-harvest processing and how they were treated after they were harvested is critical, right? That could mean mold for your pomegranates or not, right? These ones were actually only fridged at the proper temperature after harvest, and then I've been storing them properly afterwards, right? Apples, they're literally stored for 6 months. Actually, the apples you're buying now were harvested last year, unless they're being imported from South America, at an oxygen-deprived environment at the right temperature. And you're not necessarily going to know this, right? If you buy tomatoes that have been refrigerated, right, and then you buy and bring them home, try to store them for a month, it ain't happening. Why? Because there's already chill damage that has chilled the fruit that is damaging it. This happens to many different fruits that grow in the summertime, right? They could be exposed to chill. Same thing with peppers, man. If you expose peppers to chill damage, or cucumbers or zucchini to chill damage, it will go faster than it needs to be. And I'll talk more about this at the end. So, how do you know when you're buying tomatoes if they were introduced to chill damage? Well, the easiest thing is I can look at them and I know how to determine, but that's a different video, if they're chill damaged or not before I buy them, but just feel them, right? If they're super cold, they've probably been chill damaged, right? Unfortunately, in refrigerated trucks, when they're getting shipped across the country, there's only one temperature. They don't have different temperature ranges for different fruits. They put it all at this temperature so that the fruit doesn't go bad, because honestly, most places that sell the produce, they don't care if the stuff has chill damage. They just want to sell it so that they could make their money. So very important, so you got to find good stores that treat their produce right, that don't fridge their tomatoes and shouldn't keep their peppers too cold. That will introduce chill damage. And also, when you buy them, watch for damage, which includes softness in many cases. So you want to buy the fruit firm with no blemishes, no soft spots, and more importantly, no mold or discoloration. If mold or discoloration, you're already seeing spots on them, that's not a good sign. That fruit ain't gonna store, I'm sorry. And you want to get the produce as fresh as possible. So in the case, literally these were harvested a day or two right before I bought these guys. So you're not always gonna be able to do that. But what you will be able to do is ask the store that you're buying the produce from, hey, when did these apples come in to your store? Did they just come in this morning? Or better yet, ask the store when you get your produce deliveries. I want to be here on the day you get your produce delivery so I can get the stuff right off the truck so it's the freshest as possible. I mean, tomorrow I'll be shopping on a Tuesday because I know one of the stores locally gets deliveries every Tuesday morning, and they got the new stuff, the different stuff, and I get first dibs on the good deals and also get the freshest stuff that's literally fresh off the truck. Another important tip for buying things to store for a whole month is make sure you get it, not as ripe as possible. I mean, I would usually never buy a pineapple that's this literally green or dark. I want it nice and yellow because that's generally a sign of ripeness. But I bought these because they're literally I think $1 on sale. So I bought about 5 of them to have so I could cut them up, and I usually juice them, or you could eat them or whatever. And I bought them firm because I know I'm not gonna be able to get pineapples because they normally go up to $3-4 each. And since I got a whole bunch at $1, I'm good. And pineapples actually store really well. One of my top tips. But yeah, you want to get them nice and firm. And the other bonus tip is try to get fruit with a higher Brix. A higher Brix fruit will generally store longer than a lower Brix fruit will. And I'll put a link down below if I remember to what is Brix and how to select a high Brix fruit. Second tip before I get into the fruits today is to store it properly. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything else because you're going to have to wait to the end of the video for all my tips on how I store all this fruit properly. All this fruit literally is fruit that I've been storing properly, and most of it I've actually had for over a month at this point. And this is totally doable, totally possible if you do it right and follow all my tips and get these exact same fruits and get them in a good condition so that you can store them properly. Now here's the thing, some of these fruits, when I store them for a long time, because I'm picking them and they're not optimally ripe, they don't taste optimally sweet or super delicious. So sometimes I will just knowingly buy things for juice. I mean, these apples are actually pretty good. I could eat them, but I have plenty of other apples that I just literally buy because they're, organic, and they're inexpensive, sometimes as low as 30 cents a pound, and those are destined to just get juice. My pineapples, for the most part, I cut them up and give some to my parents, in jars that are pre-prepped, but I pretty much juice all my pineapples. I don't eat the ones that are just not that ripe, but I juice them to add, some extra flavoring, some sweetness to my vegetable juices, right? And so a lot of these fruits that may be eaten fresh, like I'll juice this. I usually juice the palms, although you could eat them. I usually juice cactus fruits, just I prefer to do that, although you could eat them. Everything else I could eat or juice, but I tend to juice a lot of food, and that's one excellent way if you have a lot of produce to get rid of fast, start juicing it. Everybody loves to drink a juice, but sometimes you just don't feel like eating a super huge watermelon. If you guys want to learn about the best juicer for you, be sure to check my other YouTube channel, Discount Juicers, link down below the video in the description. I make over 500 videos on comparing all the different juicer styles so that you guys can choose the right one for you to juice your 30-day-old or month-old fruit. Let's get into this list. This list is in no particular order, maybe just from some common to more uncommon ones, but I just kind of threw them all in there. So the first item on the list are apples. Apples, they are an easy store. These are probably the easiest things to store. Number one, you got to get them firm, right? Softer apples like Macintoshes won't store as well as something like a Fuji, or even better yet, a Granny Smith, that are nice and firm. You got to store these cold. Put them in your fridge as soon as you get them home. The fridge that these apples are in are like 33 to 36 degrees, and I could easily store them for an entire month, all right? Next fruits are some, but not all, of the citrus fruits. Citrus fruits that have a nice thick rind definitely store better than others. The tangerines, they don't store worth anything, but I could get limes and lemons, as well as some oranges, and actually even the grapefruits are good stores as well. Easily a month if you get them in a good condition, right? And have them at the right temperature. So the right temperature for these guys are in my fridge. It's about 40 degrees. You don't want them too cold. And the other thing people don't know is that oranges literally could stay on the tree for like 6 months and, still be good, because all the vitamin C in there. Same thing with the lemons, and I like to get I like to buy oranges when they're truly ripe, and then ripen longer on the tree. The riper the fruit is, the more soft it is when you buy it. The less it's going to store. The more firm it is, and the more unripe when it's picked, generally it's going to store a bit longer, all right? Next fruit, actually we'll say watermelon. This is an organic watermelon, and you can't buy organic watermelons right now. That's because this was purchased probably like in November. It's still good on the inside there. This will be used for juice. Sometimes when you store watermelons for a little bit longer, it gets more softer on the inside. It is still good, but it's not going to have that nice crisp texture anymore. Watermelons and other melons that I'll be talking about in a second are excellent storing fruits. Think about it. These guys grow in the summer sun in the desert. They can't dry out. They're going to have a hard, basically skin and outside. And, they even have their kind of own wax and protection layer. So make sure there is no blemishes on the watermelon. Otherwise, things can penetrate and then cause it to go bad quickly. Another melon that I'll talk about real quick are honeydew melons. Don't try to store cantaloupes. They generally don't store well because of the netting. But these honeydews generally store fairly well. And how I learned this is that a store locally had organic honeydews on sale for 99 cents each. And that's a really good deal. That's like lower than wholesale. I bought like 25 of them. And it's just me. I'm like, what are you going to do with 20? Well, I gave one to my friend and some to my family. But for the most part, I ate every single one of them. And none of them basically went bad. After a while, some of them had some bad spots that I had to cut out. But they're all still edible. I just bought them, and make sure you buy them when they're firm. So some of them, when I picked out soft ones to eat now. And then I also picked out some really hard, firm ones to eat later, and those are the ones that I ended up eating literally a month later, which is completely amazing. Those were stored out of the fridge. Some of the summer fruits, if you store them in the fridge too cold, they could have the chill damage. If I was to store those, I would probably store them in my fridge. It's like, maybe 50 degrees, 40 to 50 degrees. Keep them on the warmer end. Don't super chill them super hardcore. Next fruit are kiwis. Kiwis are incredible stores, and they are incredibly high in the vitamin C. Actually, these happen to be the yellow kiwis on the inside, not green. The sun golds, these are my favorite. And actually, these were purchased literally in the beginning of December. It is now mid-January. And these guys are I need to start eating these guys, but I only have about 12 left because I'll literally take out 6 of these guys and eat them in one shot. I bought a whole case of these at the produce terminal when I was out there. And, these have been storing quite well for me at the right temperature. So I store these in the fridge at 33 to 36 degrees, and they've been storing most excellently, all right? Let's see, next fruit. Oh, did we talk about the pineapple yet? Yeah, pineapple, another excellent storage fruit. Once again, select them nice, hard, and firm. When you buy them, I bought these on sale, so they'll often go on sale every few weeks. And then when they're on sale for like $1, and actually a few weeks ago I got them for like 50 cents each, which is insane. But the ones for 50 cents were already soft, so I'm like, I'm not going to buy a lot of those. So I usually buy like about 6 of them when they're on sale. And sometimes I find sale ones that are like organic, and then I'll buy like all they got. So I bought like 12 of them, and I just used the other one like 2 days ago, and they were easily over a month old. When pineapples will start to go bad, underneath the skin will start to turn brown a little bit, but just cut that section off. It's still good to juice. I don't know if I'd eat it at that point, because also unripe pineapples tend to be very acid and will burn your mouth and even wreck the enamel on your teeth due to the acid and the enzymes, the bromelain, that are in the pineapple. But yeah, I store these guys in my 40-degree fridge, and they store pretty well. They will soften up a little bit, but they'll still be pretty good. Next fruit I want to talk about are cactus fruits. Another amazing fruit. They are not selling cactus fruits right now. These guys were purchased probably in like November, right? Some of them are kind of on their way out, but this guy's totally good still. I love the cactus fruit. I have a really good video on cactus fruit I'll post down below if I remember. These guys literally grow in the desert in the sun, and they gotta literally have a hard skin to protect themselves from the hard, intense, sun and the hot weather and the dry climate. So, if stored properly, they could easily store a month without any issue. I do encourage you guys to get the red ones whenever possible. They're much higher in the, nutrients and the anthocyanins, beta-cyanins, nutrients that are good for you guys with the anti-inflammatory properties. But yeah, they are one underrated fruit and also an excellent storage fruit. All right, next fruit I'm going to talk about are tomatoes. These guys are excellent storage fruits, right? As long as they weren't chill damaged before you bought them. I like to get them on the vine, so usually that's the hot house grown ones on the vine, or also the Camparis on the vine. They generally store longer if they're on the vine than off the vine, because they got the nub cut out, and then there's more area that things could penetrate and get in there. So these are actually organic on the vine. Tomatoes easily store a month. What happens to my tomatoes, sometimes they'll like dry out and shrivel a little bit on the outside, but they're still perfectly good on the inside. Next fruit I'm going to talk about are the peppers. Peppers can easily last a month, but tomatoes easily more last a month than the peppers. Peppers I can get last to a month, but they will get a little bit more softer than the tomatoes. These peppers are actually from my garden, as I mentioned, and actually these are staying out of the fridge whatsoever. And in this time of year, my house is running around 60 to 65 degrees without using any heat. So that's probably a pretty good temperature for those. If I was to put them in the fridge, I'd put them in the fridge at like about 50 degrees. And sometimes when I buy them from the store, when they've already been basically in the cold chain, I put them into a 50-degree fridge instead of leaving them out, because if I let them out and because they're already in a cold chain, they would actually, the shelf life would be shorter because they start to go bad faster. So you want to keep the cold chain going. So these are all just little tips that I know, right? But yeah, easily a month. These guys were picked like literally mid-December, and now it is mid-January. The next fruit, also I grew myself, and these are my giant Fuyu persimmons. Yeah, Fuju. I food you. I fuyu'd you. Alright. But my Fuyu persimmons, I picked them out in December, the beginning of December, when they're nice, they're ripe, but they're pretty firm still, right? These have been in my fridge. at my 40-degree fridge. I probably should have put them in a 30-degree fridge, which would have been fine because actually they get sweeter when they get cold. And actually, if you buy high chias, I also had some high chias that I bought in November, December, and they're getting really soft. They're still good, but now they're really ripe. And these guys are just about, ripe enough to eat. I'll probably eat this guy tonight since it's a nice deep orange, and this one guy is not quite as deep orange, and also these guys are a bit soft. But despite being a little bit soft, they'll still store another several weeks in my fridge, and these guys are already in at 45 days. Since they were harvested off my tree. And of course, since they were harvested off my tree, I've harvested them off my tree and then left them out for a few days because I didn't have room in my fridge because I had other food coming out. Then I got them in the fridge when I could at 40 degrees and they are storing fine. Also very important, make sure your fruit does not bruise when they're in the fridge. So just dump all these in a drawer. These are all single file, single layered on the big cardboard boxes like you could get at Costco that they're like big trays, and I have trays in my fridge. Maybe I'll do a video one of these days on that. You could just pull out each tray, and sometimes it's a pain to get to the tray on the bottom, but those are the ones that have the pomegranates. And then I'll pull out each tray, and then I'll get the ones that are the softest, and I'll eat those. Usually I eat a meal of about 6 to 7 persimmons, depending on how large they are. But yeah, easily a month if you get them in good condition. All right, I think we're down to the last fruits. The last fruit we're going to talk about are the pomegranates. These are the all-stars of being able to store these guys long if they were not damaged and they're in good condition when you get them. A lot of pomegranates have been already stored in cold storage for a long time, and maybe even been stored too cold before you bought them, and they could already be degrading before you buy them, so they will not store as long as the pomegranates that I have in my hands today, because literally these are from the local farm that picked them, did not expose them to too cold of temperatures so they don't have the cold damage. They're nice and firm. And the other thing is the pomegranate actually has a nice, literally one of the hardest skins actually. Because I live in an arid climate, not a humid climate, these skins dry out and literally act as I would call it like a leather, a fruit leather, seriously like a leather, like a really thick membrane. So you want to make sure that there's no dents, indentations, or cracks. So all my pomegranates that I had purchased that had dents, indentation, or cracks were already used. I juiced them all already, and these are the ones that have the, all the skin with no blemishes, and fully sealed so that they don't go bad, right? If it's cracked open, then the fruit will not store as well. Although actually I've had some of the fruit from a year ago that were cracked open. Some of them went bad, but then some of them were still good, and they were just kind of more dried and shriveled up inside, and actually those pomegranate arils tasted amazing. Alright, so I think I got through all 10 real quick. We'll go over watermelon, apple, peppers, kiwis, pomegranates, tomatoes, pineapple, honeydew, cactus fruit, pomegranates, citrus, oranges, lemons, limes, and grapefruits, not tangerines. And then also the apples. So those are the fruits that you can store easily for a month. I do that on a regular basis. Now this is the most important part of this video, right? How you store the fruit. I did allude to some of the temperatures that I stored these fruits at, but I also have other tricks up my sleeve, and I'm not wearing any sleeves today. And let me get those out for you guys, all right? In order of preference, right? Number one, this is critical to store your fruits for a long time, right? This goes in your fridge. Inside your fridge, it runs on D batteries. It's actually called the Berry Breeze. What this unit does, when the light's flashing green, it's basically going to put out ozone, which is not good for us to breathe. It's actually could be toxic in high amounts, but in your fridge where it's fully contained and it's sealed, the ozone level builds up until you open the door, then it's totally just released into the atmosphere. It's not harmful to you guys because it's such a low concentration. But in your fridge, because it is building up, it basically kills all the mold spores, right? One of the biggest things that could go wrong with the fruits are ethylene gas and over-ripening and enzymatic reactions, and also it going bad from mold and bacteria living on the skin. So this will kill it inside your fridge. That's very critical, very important. I recommend these highly. I have actually sometimes 2 of these in each of my fridges, so I have double the ozone, and in case the battery in one of them goes out, I have a second one to take its place so that my fridges is always filled with ozone. This has been critical, especially for the berries. I mean, that's how I get such longevity out of some of the berries I buy, plus also I'm buying them in a good condition. That's very important, all right? Number 2, for outside your fridge, for inside your house, you guys want to have some kind of, air cleaner that removes the mold and the bacteria in your air, right? This does it inside the fridge. This is not going to work for your house. This puts out very low concentrations of ozone. Also, ozone is toxic to us. Think about the Sharper Image ionic breeze that they had back in the day. It created ozone and they were sued. They had to take that product off the market as far as I'm aware. This is actually works on a similar principle. It works on, I think it's photocatalyzation. And actually this was technology that NASA invented, so they don't have to change all these filters on the space station and all this kind of stuff. Basically whatever it is. And it basically oxidizes and ionizes the air, so it basically kills the mold. I mean, actually it's called the hypoallergenic air, and actually on the box that it came in when I bought it, was actually called the mold guard or something like that, because it literally kills mold in the air. That being said, if you have mold, outbreak in your house, this is not going to clear that up. It's only good for, anything that may come in and bacteria. So I have a few of these in my house in different locations, so that overall in my house I have low levels of the bacteria and the molds that could get on my fruit that could ruin it. And also we don't want to be breathing in any kind of high levels of bacteria and mold in our living environment, in my personal opinion. That's step number 2. Now step number 3, this is also critical. This is a microfiber cloth. But it is not just any microfiber cloth, it is a special microfiber cloth. The biggest issue you're going to have with fruits going bad is that if there is surface mold, or maybe sometimes there's this kind of film on it, biofilm, that actually the bacteria produces to protect itself. If that's on the fruit, the biofilm is protecting the bacteria underneath, or there's some mold on it. I've had sometimes I got some fruit and in the box there's one bad moldy something or other, and then it got spores on all the other stuff. I think it was oranges. Then I take my microfiber cloth, and if you rub this against your face, actually they use this for the face. There's 2 sides. And it's actually almost kind of there's the microfibers act as little hairs to kind of stick on to literally clean off the surface. So if you have a scanning electron microscope, you can look at the surface and you can see probably peaks and valleys. And if you rub it with the microfiber cloth afterwards, it's going to really shine it up nice and good and be nice and smooth and soft. Take out all the imperfections, all that floating mold that's landing on all the bacteria and all this kind of garbage. And in addition, this is a special microfiber because it is actually silver impregnated. So this is I'm going to impregnate you with silver. All right. So this is microfiber, but also it has silver in it. So it's silver ions. Silver ions basically will kill bacteria as well as mold. So then just, if you get bad, I don't often do this, but if I have some very valuable fruit, I will literally rub each fruit down. This often happens with cucumbers, because cucumbers are notorious for having some kind of microfilm on there. And if they got microfilm on there, they will go bad. But one time I, wiped down all the cucumbers in the box, and it lasted literally twice as long because I took all all that stuff off of it. And also it shines it up really nice too. I don't know if you guys can see the difference between the brighter one and the one I didn't rub down, okay? Microfiber cloth, super critical, super important. Next thing that actually I don't need to purchase in my environment, but you may need to in yours, is a dehumidifier. Very critical, very important. I live in an arid climate, and that is yet one of the many reasons why I get to store my fruit really long, because there's not all the extra water in the air. In places of high humidity, more water in the air, more humidity, mold and bacteria and things like to grow a lot easier. That's one of the reasons why I moved to the desert, so that there's less allergens and mold and all these things in the air. So, while the air is drier, which is good and bad, there's less, of the humidity to cause my fruit to go bad. This translates also to, in general, your fridges can also be dehumidifiers. If I put things in my fridge, sometimes they'll dehydrate before they go bad. Also, because the dehumidity in the surrounding air also is in my fridge. So you may need also a dehumidifier. Of course, I do not need one. That may be able to increase the shelf life of some of your foods as well. Now, the last technology that I use that could extend the length of your fruit is this guy. And this is something I saw at the health food convention. It's basically like some kind of thing. It says food freshness card, and they had these studies on it, and you know, I don't know if this is hokey or for legit or real or not, but basically it says place food freshness card in the refrigerator, a vegetable bin, food pantry, bread box, or other areas used to store food. To preserve the life of the food freshness card, do not bend, fold, tear, microwave, boil, blah, blah. And basically they say that this allows your fruit to store longer because it puts out some kind of energy. And this one, not proven. I don't know. You know, I would get one of these way before I got any kind of fruit freshness card, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy this and try it, and if I get even an extra day out of some of these fruits with my food freshness card, I've saved money. So this is made in the USA, and it's actually foodfreshnesscard.com. Big businesses use this, and they do save money because, you know, big warehouses and grocery stores will use this so that their food doesn't go bad, so that actually they keep their profits, which is interesting. But yeah, I use this too. I don't know if I trust this or not, but it cannot hurt, and the worst thing is I got fleeced of some money. Anyways. Alright, final tips I want to share with you guys. Like I discussed before, you want to store the fruits at the right temperature. Every different fruit needs to be at a different temperature. How do you know what temperature it is? Well, you can look it up, USDA. You know, they basically mention what temperature fruit should be stored at. And actually I have a whole video on that topic because that's a whole video unto itself. I'll put a link down below. Currently I have 4 different areas with fridges, or 4 fridges. 2 are like large size fridges and 2 are smaller chest fridges. And they're all at different temperatures. You know, I have one fridge at like 50 degrees, and that generally stores my things like my peppers, cucumbers, and zucchini. Oh, and chayote squash. That could have easily been in this video. I have another fridge at like 38 degrees, which store things like my mushrooms, also some of my berries, but they could probably be a little bit colder. And then also I have another fridge at like 40 degrees, and then my other fridge that stores my juices and some of my really coldest fruits, you know, that'll store longer. Usually I put my berries in there. Is at like 33 to 36 degrees. So store the fruit at the right temperature. That's very critical. The other thing also, when you store your fruits, don't store them wet, guys. Make sure they're completely dry. The more wet, the more rot, the more mold happens. Make sure they're completely dry. So you want to, you know, some people might, oh, you could wash them and then dry them and then store them. You could do that. That's all these extra steps. If I'm going to do anything, I'm just going to take this cloth and then wipe it down. I think that's a lot more better than washing it and drying it, because if you leave any moisture on there, you know, that could also be problematic. Oh, and then the other thing I've done in the past, and this is extra credit, I've also used an ultrasonic ozone generating bath, and that's in really rare conditions, about some really rare fruits, because that's a big pain to use, because I got to use that and then dry it, and the ozone and the ultrasonic basically will vibrate and kill off any kind of exterior mold or growth or whatever, but this will do pretty much the same, well, not pretty much the same thing, but a similar thing that's a lot easier to deal with, and you don't have, and also too, if there's a tear in the skin and the water gets in, that could cause premature rot and aging of your fruit as well. Another tip that I talked about is you don't want to stack your fruits or bruise them when they're in storage. Most of my fruits are actually, I mean, I stack apples on top of each other because they're pretty firm, but things like my pomegranates, my kiwis, my persimmons are all basically single file on trays so that they don't, basically they're right next to each other, not like brushing up, not bruising each other, because that's going to cause damage. And, you know, so they're going to stay fresher longer for easily 30 days. I think that's all the tips I got for you guys today. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please buy more fruits for yourself and your family to eat and enjoy, and even juice when you got extra ones or they're getting kind of soft, so that you guys can get more fruits into you. Fruits are one of the healthiest foods, although I do like and prefer to eat more vegetables and leafy greens because those are often under-eaten foods, whereas many people tend to eat their fruits because they taste so good. But eat more of them. Also be sure to click the thumbs up to let me know that you guys love this video. I could do another video on the vegetables that I buy that can store, I don't know if they're going to store a month, but I'll tell you what I store them for. I'll do that. You know, I have lots of skills about vegetables and fruits and vegetables and growing them, storing them, preserving them, using them, cooking with them, that you will find on my other videos on my channel as well. So make sure you click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes that come out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel to enhance your life so that you guys can eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, which are the best foods on the planet. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are wealth of knowledge. Over 500 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel dedicated to teach you guys all about eating a fruit and vegetable rich diet and how that can benefit you greatly. And be sure to share this video with somebody else you think it could help. If they eat fruits and vegetables, if they eat more fruits, if you want them to eat more fruits, send them this video so that they can save money and eat more fruits and shop less by buying some of these fruits and storing them properly, because these are tips that most people simply have not discovered or do not know. And I'm glad to be able to help you guys to stop food waste by storing your produce properly and being able to eat it before it goes bad. So with that, my name is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time. And until then, remember, keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables. They're always the best.